Once upon a time, in a quiet little village, there lived a kind woman who wished more than anything to have a child. One day, she visited a wise old woman who gave her a tiny seed and said, "Plant this in a flower pot, and you shall see a miracle." The woman hurried home and planted the seed with care. Soon, a beautiful golden flower blossomed. When the petals slowly opened, the woman gasped. Inside sat the tiniest, loveliest little girl she had ever seen, no bigger than her thumb. She called her Thumbelina. Thumbelina slept in a polished walnut shell bed lined with soft rose petals. She played on the table among the blossoms, singing songs in a sweet voice that made everyone smile. But one night, while she was fast asleep, a large, warty toad crept in through the window. The toad saw Thumbelina and thought, "She will make a perfect bride for my son." Quietly, the toad carried the walnut shell away to the riverbank and placed it on a lily pad so Thumbelina could not escape. When she woke up, she began to cry. She did not want to live in the muddy water with the toads. But as dawn broke, the little fish swimming below saw her sadness. They nibbled at the green stem holding the lily pad until it snapped. The lily pad floated gently away with Thumbelina on it. The river carried her far and wide. She marveled at the flowers on the banks and the dragonflies dancing above the water. Just as she was beginning to feel safe, a big beetle swooped down and snatched her up. He carried her high into the trees. The beetle's friends gathered around to stare. "She has only 2 legs," said one. "And no feelers," said another. "How ugly!" Though the beetle had first admired Thumbelina, he soon agreed with them. He set her gently on a daisy and flew away. Thumbelina felt lonely and frightened. Summer turned into autumn, and autumn into winter. The cold winds made her shiver. She searched for shelter and finally found a burrow beneath a tree root. It belonged to a field mouse, who kindly took her in. "You may stay with me if you help keep the house tidy," the mouse said warmly. Thumbelina was grateful and worked hard. One day, the mouse's rich neighbor, a mole, came to visit. He was dressed in a fine velvet coat and spoke proudly of his dark tunnels. He took a fancy to Thumbelina and soon asked her to marry him. The field mouse was thrilled. "You will never be cold or hungry," she said, but Thumbelina felt a deep sadness in her heart. She did not want to live underground, away from the sun and flowers she loved. One day, the mole invited them to walk through one of his tunnels. There, lying still in the passage, was a swallow that had fallen from the sky. Thumbelina felt tears fill her eyes. She loved the swallow's songs in spring. While the mole and mouse moved ahead, she gently laid a warm blanket over the swallow and placed a crumb of bread near his beak. All through winter, Thumbelina visited the swallow in secret. Slowly, he regained his strength. When spring came, the swallow stretched his wings and chirped, "Come with me, Thumbelina. Let me carry you away to the warm lands." But Thumbelina thought of the kind mouse and said she could not leave. The swallow flew away into the blue sky, and she felt her heart break a little. The day of her wedding to the mole drew near. As she stepped outside for a last look at the golden sun, she heard a familiar chirp. The swallow had returned. "Please," he said, "fly away with me now." Thumbelina climbed onto his back, and off they soared over fields and forests, over mountains and sparkling lakes. At last, they reached a warm land filled with flowers of every color. The swallow gently placed her on a white blossom. There, she met a tiny fairy prince with shimmering wings. He was no taller than she, and his crown glistened like morning dew. "Will you stay with us and be my queen?" he asked with a gentle smile. Thumbelina's heart filled with joy. She knew this was where she truly belonged. She said yes, and the fairies cheered. They gave her a pair of delicate wings so she could fly among the blossoms forever. And so, Thumbelina lived happily in the land of flowers, always grateful to the swallow who had saved her. Moral: no matter how small you feel, you are never too small to follow your heart and find where you belong.